was it a concern for you that he might have been a racist?
When I saw the 12-year-old Trayvon Martin picture and the 270-pound George Zimmerman picture, yes, no question. And strangely enough, I think that's why most of the people who believe that George Zimmerman is a racist today got their belief when they saw those two pictures 16 months ago. And you can't not have that thought. You can't look at 12-year-old Trayvon Martin and the size of George Zimmerman and say there's any reason why Trayvon Martin should have lost his life that night. When you look at the reality, it's completely different.
Whose fault is that imagery dichotomy? Because I think everyone knows what you're talking about, that at the beginning, the images were very different. You had the first pictures of George Zimmerman. He was in what looked like jail attire. And then you had a very, very young-looking Trayvon Martin. Whose fault is that?
It was a wonderfully created and crafted public relations campaign by the people who are assisting the Martin family. That's Ben Crump and other people. I don't discredit what he did as long as he acknowledges that's exactly what happened.
He purposely, or that family, purposely chose those photos because of the youthful look it gave.
I don't have personal insight on that, but what I do know is that the way this matter was handled, it was handled where Trayvon Martin was 12 or 13 years old and George Zimmerman was a racist murderer. You didn't have to scratch very far below the surface to realize that George Zimmerman is an anti-racist. He is the opposite of a racist. This is a guy who mentored black children during this very time that this happened, that he grew up with black children in his home being cared for by his grandmother. He brought a black woman or girl to his prom. He went and took the stand that he did for Sherman Ware, a homeless black man assailed and attacked by a white cop's son. Didn't take much to look at George Zimmerman and realize he's not a racist. So if that's true, then the maintaining and futuring the fallacy that he was a racist was absolutely intentional.
You mentioned Ben Crump. Do you think that George Zimmerman would have even been charged had Ben Crump not been pulled into this?
No. Ben Crump or someone like him, because had Ben Crump not gotten involved in the case, maybe for some good reasons to begin with. If he believed that there was something here that was being swept under the rug, then get on into it. I'm very okay with that.
But you didn't quite say it that way. You made it sound like it was Ben Crump, George Zimmerman would be free at this time, and we would not be in a trial.
That's correct. I think that it was a made-up story for purposes that had nothing to do with George Zimmerman, and that they victimized him. They complain about Trayvon Martin being victimized. George Zimmerman was victimized by a publicity campaign to smear him, to call him a racist when he wasn't, and to call him a murderer when he wasn't.
And so Angela Corey and the governor and all of those that had a hand in bringing about this prosecution, they were all manipulated by Ben Crump?
Oh, I don't know that it was Ben Crump doing all that manipulation, but I'm very surprised that the prosecution team decided not to take this case to a grand jury when one was sitting and paneled and ready to take on the case of the state of Florida versus George Zimmerman and determine whether or not there was enough evidence and enough information to charge him with any crime. Rather than do that, which was the default position that could have happened, they decided to have a press conference, pray with the victim's family, and then announce second-degree murder charges.
George was railroaded.
He's not guilty of second-degree murder. He's not guilty of anything but protecting himself from the attack by Trayvon Martin after waiting 40 seconds and screaming for help.